Welcome back, Algo learners. So, we are back for more simple moving average fun. Remember, this session we are going to find the average percentage of S&P 500 stocks that are above their 200 moving day average over any given period of time. Kind of a running average, so to speak. Let's go ahead and pull up our strategy, moving underscore AVG, that we had last time. And let's just dive right in. First things first, let's go ahead and in our initialize function, let's go below where we set our SMA window and just let's create some counters. Set counters. You're going to see why we do this in a little bit. May not make much sense right now, but bear with me. So context num above equals 0. So this will be the number of stocks above. And then we're going to do context dot total num for the total number of stocks. And then we're going to have context dot percentage above. Okay, 0.0. Okay, so we set our counters in the initialize function. Now we go to the function before trading starts. And so we don't need to see the print. Let's pound that out. We already know that it's a data frame. So now we go into the trade market open, which runs every day at the beginning or at market open. That's fine. We get our backtest date. So we get our date and time and we print it. So we know what date that we're getting the data for this day in our backtest. And so we did print out the data frame here, but I'm not going to need that. So let's pound that out. And then we printed the type of, well, we know these are 4 series, and so we already know that they're series, so I'm going to go ahead and pound these out. Then we had, we added all of our series to the data frame, and we gave them certain names for the columns. I'm not going to print the data frame. We already know what it looks like. But let's go ahead and get into our research logic. Okay. So let's go ahead and find out the number of stocks that are actually above their moving average when the market opens. And so, we can pick a date, and we will. But we want to find out on that day how many are above their 200 moving day average. And then we also want to find the number of how many are below their 200 moving day average. And then we just want to know, okay, how many total stocks are we actually looking at? And you'll say, well, isn't it 483? Isn't that the length of, our universe? Not necessarily, because as we go back in time, not all those 483 stocks are actually in the S&P 500 index. And so some of those 483 stocks were just added recently. Think of Tesla. If we go back to 2009, Tesla's not there. So, it's not going to pick up any data for it. So anyway, we'll want to know the total number of stocks that we're actually looking at, and then we can compute a percentage of how many of the total number of stocks that we're looking at are above their 200 moving day average. So let's go ahead and do the logic around that. So let's create above SMA. So num underscore above underscore SMA equals. So let's call up our data frame. And the column we want to check out is above SMA. So that's the column. And if that column says true, remember it's a Boolean, if that says true, well, we're going to sum it. We're going to sum all of the trues in this column, and we're going to come up with a number, and we're going to assign that number to num underscore above underscore SMA. We're going to do the same thing for the below. I can type. Now there's some easier ways to do this, okay? But I'm going to do it this way just because it's logical and beginners can follow me. Below SMA. So we're going to go to the below SMA column by calling it up with the brackets. And then we're going to see, okay, how many trues are sitting in that column? We're going to sum them up. Come up with a number and put it in that num below SMA. And then we got a total num. We're going to add these up. Some of you saying, well, why is he putting the word float in front of the parenthetical? That is a question for Google and Python. If you don't know, you can go ahead and understand float and integer and kind of seeing why I might be putting float here. Okay, and then percent above, let's do this. So I'm gonna do 100 times num above SMA, so the number of stocks above the SMA divided by the total number of stocks that we're taking a look at, and that will give us our percentage. All right, let's go ahead and print. So we're going to print stocks above their SMA. In this case, it's the 200 moving day average. And we're going to print stocks below their SMA. You guys following along? Print total stocks and we're going to print what am I going to call this? Percent stocks above their SMA. All right, I think I got it. All right, so let's go ahead and let's pick a day. Let's just go to February 11th. And let's go ahead and run this. And let's see what our data is for February 11th. And hopefully we'll get there without too many syntax errors. Ah, good. So, so on February 11th, here we go. So in our universe, we know that we had 483 stocks. So as we go back into the backtest, here we go. It's February 11th, 2021. So at market open at 9:30, we went ahead and looked at, well, remember, just at 8:45, we pulled all the data for the 200-day moving average and calculated, or we pulled all the data for that. Then when the market opened, we calculated our SMAs and then pulled the current price down. And so now we are comparing the current price versus the 200 moving day average. And we put them all into DataFrame, and then we started comparing. And then we summed all the trues for above SMA. And so in this case, 432 stocks had true in the above SMA column. And then we had 47 stocks that had true in the below SMA column. Total stocks, 479. So there's 4 stocks there that we're missing data on, that maybe weren't in the data frame or whatnot at that point. Percentage stocks above their SMA is just over 90%. So over 90% of the stocks that we're looking at are actually above their 200 moving day average. So let's go ahead and take another, let's expand the universe a little bit. Let's go to March 23rd, 2020, right at the low point of the market. And let's see how many were above their 200 moving day average on that day. This will also give us March 24th. It will give us data points, all of these data points through February 11th. Interestingly, here's the benchmark at SPY. You could see if you had timed it right at the low point on March 23rd, your $10,000 capital investment would have been right around 17,000. Not too bad. So anyway, here we go. Much different story. March 23rd, 2020, 9:30 in the morning. Market opens. Only 15 stocks are above their 200 moving day average. Okay, so you can see that's just 3.25% of the total stocks that are basically, that we've looked at, 461 stocks. So basically there's 22 stocks that aren't in our current index, or in our current universe, that weren't part of the index back then in March 23rd, 2020. So think like Tesla. So anyway, 3.25%. Interestingly, you go to the next day on the 24th, 19 are above. On the 25th, 22 are now above their 200 moving day average. Come down here, 51 on the 31st of March, 51 are now above their 200 moving day average. And then when we get into January 28, 2020, 422 now are above their 200 moving day average. And so that daily look is about 88%. Okay. But, this is for any given day. We want to run a cumulative total so we can see what the running average of the percentage stocks are above their SMA for this time period. Okay. So we need to write the code to be able to do that as well. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And to do this, we're going to make use of our counters that we put in the Initialize function. Okay, so we're going to do context. Oops. Num above. So we're going to run a cumulative total here. So I'm going to add it to itself. Of course, there's another way to do this, but this, from a logical standpoint, it's easier to see sometimes. So what am I doing here? So basically every day I'm going to run a total of the number of stocks above their 200 moving day average. And I'm just going to run a cumulative total. And so that will, you'll see what that will allow us to do. So we're going to do context total num. So we want to also keep track of the total number of stocks in our calculations, and run a cumulative total on that. And we'll also so remember, it's going to be, whoops. There's a percent, right? So context above divided by context So this is our cumulative percentage above. So we're taking our cumulative number above and dividing it by the cumulative total number. This will give us our running average. If I can type. Let's go ahead and print those out. Cumulative stocks above their SMA, 200 SMA, 200-day moving average. So we'll deal with the context. This is our running total of number above. Below, and let's put the running total of below. Well, wait a minute. That's not what I wanted to do, because I didn't create one for that, sorry. Cumulative total number of stocks. That's what I was looking for. Sorry to make you type a little bit more if you're typing along. There's our running total. And then we're going to do running average percent of stocks above their SMA, 200 moving day average. And that's going to be context dot percent above. All right, so let's see. Let's run the same time frame, and let's see if I'm able to come up with a cumulative running average of percentage stocks above their SMA. Interestingly, right, because we start off at 3% and we end in the 90s. So, you know, maybe it's somewhere in between. Maybe it's going to be coming out to 50% or something like that on average. Let's go ahead and see. Hopefully we don't have any syntax errors so we can get the answer straight away. All right, so far so good. Just running the back test here on our research logic, and we'll see where we're at. Okay, here we go. All right, so again, what I wanted to show you, we already have this information right here from the 23rd of March, you know, 3.25%. But then now we're creating our cumulative numbers, and so you could see the cumulative numbers of, obviously we're only in it for one day, so they're the same. But when we get to the 24th, okay, now we have some new numbers. Okay, 19 now are above their 200 moving day average, 442 are below. Move the daily percentage went up to 4.12%. And so now we run our cumulative. And so here's our cumulative. Now, you know, we have 34 cumulative that were above their SMA, 200 moving day average. And then the total number of stocks, 922. And so our running average is 3.68, right? So anyway, you could see how we're running a cumulative total. And let's go all the way to the end. Here we are. And so now we're February 11th. And you could see now our running average percentage of stocks above their 200 moving day average is just a shade under 60%. So let's go ahead and just go back a little bit further. Let's go back all the way to January 1, 2008. All right, let me go ahead and do that, and then we'll wrap this up. I want you to see kind of a longer time frame, and so this would help lead us in to some other questions. Now, what we're going to do in the next session is we're going to create a couple different data frames one for stocks that are above their 200 moving day average and one that's below their 200 moving day average. And then we're going to calculate the percent of that a stock is actually above its 200 moving day average, or the percent that it's below its moving day average. And then we're going to rank stocks based off of those percentage from highest to lowest. And then we're going to be able to place trades based on that, either on a momentum basis or on a mean reversion basis. So that will be in the next session where we will set those trades up, and we will actually run a back test on those trades. So you can see taking a little longer this time. And so we're, 2008 we started. This will probably last a couple more, probably a minute. We're about 41% of the way done through the back test. But this will be interesting because we're going to go all the way back here to 2008, and we're going to see what percentage of stocks have been historically over their 200 moving day average. And so that will shed a little light, give us a little bit of a baseline to understand where we're at. Looking at the research logic, kind of coming down through here, when we start creating our data frames, we're going to do it right down here. And so we'll even, we're going to start create a data frame for the stocks above their SMA. And so we'll continue in the next session with doing that. So we're 73% of the way there on our back test. We're just moments away from getting our answer for the percentage, the average percentage of the S&P stocks that are over their 200 moving day average over a 13-year period almost. Or 12-year period. My math is right. So there we go. No, 13 years. Crazy. Time is flying. Okay, 90% there. We're almost done. And we'll find out in just a second. There goes the pandemic drop. And then the V-shaped and swoosh recovery. And here we go. All right. 100% done. Okay, so here we are. The back test is done. Incidentally, we ran 3,137 trading days in this back test. It actually started on August 1st, 2008. Even though I tried to get it to start in January, the data must only start on the 1st of August. But anyway, when we go back, I want you to see that the total stocks on August 1, 2008 was 257. And so, there's almost 230 stocks that are in our universe today that were not in the S&P 500 universe back in August 1 of 2008. And so that is a little bit of a bias issue. There is, some things we can work to get around that and start tracking the stocks that are not in our universe and go back and find out which stocks we're missing and be able to start tracking those as well. But this is just for example's sake. And but I want you to see that that is a little bit of a drawback when we're trying to run a cumulative number. So anyway, you can see here that the number of stocks above the 200 moving day average is 74 and below the 200 moving day average is 183. And so that only comes out to be about a 29% rate of percentage of stocks above their 200 moving day average. And that's fairly consistent here as we move through August at around 28, 29%. And then it just advances for us all the way through to 2021, and now you can see that we're back up to 479 stocks that we're tracking. 422 now are above their 200 moving day average, and 57 are below. And we're now tracking, even though on that day, on the 3rd of February, 88% of the stocks were above their 200 moving day average. Over the last 13 some odd years, the running average is 66%. So again, not an exact science, but at least gives you an idea. And so when people start to say, well, you know, maybe today's a little bit frothy as far as pricing and valuations go, because now it's like 90% of the stocks in the S&P 500 are above their 200 moving day average, when on average it's around 67% should be, you know, typical to generally is the number of percentage of stocks that are above their 200 moving day average. So you know, that in general is something that you could build into some trading logic and take a look at. We'll go ahead and capitalize on some of that as we move forward. But anyway, if you like this video, please go ahead and hit subscribe. Definitely can't wait to get into the next session where we will create some trading logic and start placing some trades on a back test, and we'll see if they're successful using SMAs. So anyway, remember, you got this.